Wood carving in Timurid Shiraz. A peaceful bedtime history story. Chapter 1. Shiraz in the flourishing Timurid era. You find yourself walking slowly, very slowly, through the rose-scented streets of 15th century Shiraz. The morning light filters gently through the narrow alleyways, casting soft shadows on the ancient stone walls. You can hear the distant sound of water trickling peacefully through the underground qanats that bring life to this desert city. The air is warm, but not harsh. It carries the sweet fragrance of jasmine flowers and the subtle aroma of saffron from the nearby spice merchants. You pause and breathe deeply. The scent fills your lungs, and you feel your shoulders relax. This is Shiraz during the golden age of the Timurid dynasty, when art and learning flourished like the famous gardens of this ancient Persian city. You are in the time of Shah Rukh, the wise ruler who governed from 1409 to 1447, bringing peace and prosperity to these lands. As you walk, you notice the gentle sounds of the city awakening, the soft clip-clop of donkey hooves on cobblestones, the melodic call to morning prayer floating from the minarets, the quiet murmur of merchants preparing their stalls for the day ahead. The buildings around you rise like gentle dreams, their walls made of sun-dried brick and covered in intricate tilework. The colors are soothing, deep blues like the pre-dawn sky, soft greens like spring leaves, and warm earth tones that seem to glow in the morning light. You pass by a small fountain, its water bubbling softly in the courtyard of a mosque. The sound is hypnotic, rhythmic, like a lullaby sung by the stones themselves. You sit on the edge of the fountain and feel the cool mist on your face. The water reflects the sky, and you watch the clouds drift slowly overhead. In this era, Shiraz was known throughout the Islamic world as a center of poetry and art. The great Persian poet Hafez had walked these very streets just a century before, his words still echoing in the gardens and courtyards where scholars gathered to recite verses about divine love and earthly beauty. You continue walking, your feet moving softly on the worn stones. The city is laid out like a vast garden, with wide boulevards lined with plane trees and cypress groves. Between the main streets, narrow passages wind like gentle streams, leading to hidden courtyards where artisans work in peaceful concentration. The Timurid rulers had made this city a beacon of Islamic civilization. Libraries housed thousands of manuscripts, copied by skilled calligraphers whose hands moved like dancers across the parchment. Mathematicians and astronomers studied in the madrasas, their quiet discussions mixing with the sound of fountain water and rustling leaves. You smell the aroma of fresh bread, baking in the communal ovens that serve each neighborhood. The scent is warm and comforting, like a gentle embrace. Nearby, you can hear the soft scraping sound of a baker's wooden paddle, sliding loaves into the clay ovens that have been heating since before dawn. The morning call to prayer begins, floating from the tall minaret of the Vakil Mosque. The muezzin's voice is clear and melodic, rising and falling like a gentle wave. Even if you don't understand the Arabic words, the rhythm soothes your spirit. The faithful respond quietly, their footsteps soft on the stone as they make their way to prayer. You walk toward the bazaar district, where the covered markets create a cool refuge from the desert sun. The entrance is framed by an arch of beautiful tilework, geometric patterns in blue and gold that seem to shift and dance in the changing light. As you pass beneath the arch, you feel the temperature drop and the light becomes softer, more peaceful. Inside the bazaar, the sounds are muffled and gentle. Merchants speak in low voices, negotiating prices for silk and spices, carpets and precious stones. The acoustics of the vaulted ceiling create an echo that turns every sound into music. Your footsteps, the rustle of fabric, the clink of coins, all blend into a soothing symphony. You pause at a stall selling Persian carpets, their colors rich and deep like jewels. The merchant invites you to feel the texture, and you run your fingers across the soft wool. Each knot was tied by hand, with patience and skill passed down through generations. The patterns tell stories of gardens and paradise, of birds and flowing rivers. The light filtering through the small windows of the bazaar creates patterns on the floor, geometric shapes that shift slowly as the sun moves across the sky. You watch these patterns, feeling your mind become calm and still. Time seems to slow, and you feel yourself becoming part of this ancient rhythm of life. Near the woodcarver section of the bazaar, you can hear the gentle sounds of their work, the soft scraping of chisels on wood, a whisper of sandpaper smoothing rough edges, the quiet tap-tap-tap of small hammers shaping intricate details. These sounds are not harsh or jarring, but rhythmic and soothing, like a meditation. The woodcarvers of Shiraz were renowned throughout the Islamic world. They worked with precious woods brought from distant forests, walnut and cherry from the northern mountains, ebony and rosewood from India, cedar from the Lebanese highlands. Each type of wood had its own character, its own voice that spoke to the skilled craftsman. You approach one of the workshops, where an elderly master carver sits cross-legged on a soft carpet. His tools are arranged neatly beside him, each one worn smooth by decades of use. His hands move slowly and deliberately, never rushing, each cut measured and precise. The wood shaving curls away from his chisel like silk ribbons, falling softly to the carpet below. The master's workshop smells of wood and oil, linseed oil used to protect and nourish the carved pieces. The scent is warm and natural, connecting you to the ancient forests where these trees once grew. On the walls, finished pieces display the master's skill, intricate geometric patterns that seem to flow like water, floral motifs that capture the essence of Persian gardens. Students work quietly around the master. Young men who have come from distant cities to learn this ancient art. They copy his movements, their hands gradually learning the patience and precision required to transform raw wood into objects of beauty. The workshop is filled with a sense of peaceful concentration, each person absorbed in their work. The afternoon light grows softer, filtering through the high windows of the bazaar. The sounds of the city fade into a gentle murmur, and you feel your eyelids beginning to grow heavy. The rhythmic sounds of carving, the soft conversations, the distant call of street vendors, all blend into a lullaby that speaks of centuries of peaceful craft. You find a comfortable place to rest, perhaps on one of the soft carpets in the workshop, or on a bench in a nearby courtyard where a fountain bubbles quietly. The sounds of Timurid Shiraz continue around you, but they are no longer distinct. They flow together like a gentle river, carrying you towards sleep. The rose gardens of Shiraz release their evening fragrance, mixing with the scent of jasmine and orange blossoms. The air is cooling now, and a gentle breeze carries these perfumes through the narrow streets and into the peaceful workshops where artisans continue their timeless craft. Your breathing becomes slow and deep, matching the ancient rhythm of this city that has seen countless sunsets and dawns. The sounds grow softer, more distant, like echoes from a beautiful dream. The woodcarver's tools tap gently in the distance, keeping time with your heartbeat. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the evening breeze whispers softly through the plane trees that line the boulevards of old Shiraz. You drift deeper into the peaceful atmosphere of this ancient city, where art and craft have flourished for centuries, and where time moves like honey, slow and sweet, carrying you gently into a deep, restful sleep. Chapter 2: Workshops and Master Woodcarvers. You awaken gently in the soft pre-dawn light of the woodcarver's workshop. The air is cool and fresh, filled with the natural fragrance of different woods: walnut and cherry, cedar and pine, each one contributing its own subtle scent to the peaceful atmosphere. The workshop is a place of quiet beauty, its walls lined with shelves holding carefully arranged tools. Each tool has been crafted by hand, the handles worn smooth by generations of artisans. Chisels of different sizes rest in neat rows, their edges sharp and clean, ready for the day's work. The blades catch the early light, gleaming softly like still water. You notice the organization of this sacred space, for that is what it truly is: a place where ordinary wood is transformed into extraordinary art through patience, skill, and devotion. Each tool has its proper place. Each piece of wood is stored according to its type and quality. Everything arranged to promote harmony and peaceful work. The master woodcarver arrives as the first light of dawn touches the windows. His movements are slow and deliberate, never hurried, for he learned long ago that haste is the enemy of beautiful work. He wears simple robes of undyed wool, practical and comfortable, allowing his hands and arms to move freely as he works. His hands you notice, are strong but gentle, the fingers long and sensitive. These hands have spent decades learning to feel the grain of wood, to sense its hidden patterns and natural tendencies. When he picks up a piece of walnut, his fingers explore its surface like a musician tuning an instrument, feeling for the music that lies hidden within. The tools he uses are extensions of his hands, each one selected and prepared with care. The gouges, with their curved blades, perfect for carving the flowing lines of arabesque patterns. The V-tools, designed to cut clean lines and define the edges of intricate geometric designs. The skew chisels, angled precisely to reach into corners and create the finest details. You watch as he begins his morning ritual, sharpening each tool with slow, meditative strokes on a series of whetstones. The sound is gentle and rhythmic, steel sliding across stone in long, smooth movements. This is not just preparation for work. It is a form of prayer, a way of centering his mind and connecting with his craft. The whetstones are arranged from coarse to fine, each one serving a different purpose in the sharpening process. The coarse stone removes nicks and reshapes damaged edges. The medium stone refines the angle, and the finest stone creates the mirror-like finish that will glide through wood like silk. Between each stone, he wipes the blade carefully, checking its edge in the growing light. As he works, you can smell the mixture of steel and stone, a clean, metallic scent that speaks of precision and care. The water he uses to lubricate the stones reflects the morning light, and you watch the gentle ripples spread across its surface as he moves the tools back and forth. The workshop begins to fill with the soft sounds of preparation. Other craftsmen arrive, younger men who are learning the trade, and experienced journeymen who have come to work on special commissions. Each one greets the master with quiet respect, bowing slightly as they take their places at their workbenches. The apprentices, some as young as 12 or 13, begin their day by preparing the wood and organizing the tools. They sweep the workshop floor, not just to clean, but as a form of meditation that helps them center their minds for the day ahead. The broom moves in slow, rhythmic strokes, and the soft whisper of straw against stone becomes another gentle sound in the morning symphony. You notice how the light enters the workshop through carefully placed windows, designed to provide illumination without creating harsh shadows or glare. The windows face north, where the light is most consistent throughout the day, allowing the carvers to work for hours without straining their eyes. Wooden shutters can be adjusted to control the intensity, creating the perfect conditions for detailed work. The master selects a piece of seasoned walnut for today's project, a section of mihrab decoration for a mosque in the city. The wood has been drying for 7 years, stored in the workshop where the dry desert air has slowly removed all moisture, leaving behind wood that is stable and beautiful, ready to accept the carver's vision. He begins by studying the grain, tracing its patterns with his finger, feeling for any irregularities or hidden flaws. This wood came from the mountains north of Shiraz, where walnut trees grow slowly in the rocky soil, their grain tight and even, perfect for fine carving. The tree was cut in winter when the sap was dormant, then carefully transported to the city by caravan. The master's eyes are half closed as he examines the wood, not because he is tired, but because he is using more than sight to understand its character. His fingers detect variations in hardness, subtle changes in the grain direction, all the information he needs to plan his approach. This examination might take an hour, or even longer, for rushing this stage would be like a musician trying to play without first tuning his instrument. Around him, the other craftsmen begin their own work. The sounds are gentle and rhythmic. The soft scrape of chisels, the whisper of sandpaper, the gentle tap of wooden mallets. No one speaks loudly, for noise would disturb the concentration that fine carving requires. Conversations, when they occur, are conducted in low voices, often about technical matters or the sharing of knowledge between master and student. You can smell the different woods as they release their fragrances under the carver's tools. Cedar brings the scent of mountain forests. Cherry adds its sweet note, and ebony, rare and precious, contributes its own mysterious aroma. These scents blend with the smell of linseed oil, used to nourish and protect the finished work, creating an atmosphere that is both earthy and refined. The apprentices practice basic techniques on scraps of wood, their young hands learning to control the tools through repetition and patience. They carve simple geometric patterns, straight lines and gentle curves, building the muscle memory that will one day allow them to create masterpieces. Their concentration is complete, their world narrowed to the small area where chisel meets wood. You notice the way the master occasionally pauses in his work, not because he is uncertain, but because he is listening to the wood, feeling its response to his tools, adjusting his technique to work with the grain rather than against it. This is the wisdom that comes only with decades of experience, the ability to sense what the wood wants to become. The tools create their own music as they work. Each type of chisel has its own sound. The gouge makes a soft, shearing noise as it removes long curls of wood. The V-tool creates a higher pitch as it cuts its precise lines, and the skew chisel whispers almost silently as it smooths and refines the carved surfaces. Together, these sounds create a symphony of craftsmanship that has been heard in these workshops for centuries. As the morning progresses, the light grows stronger but remains soft and even. The desert air is dry, perfect for woodworking, as it prevents the wood from swelling or shrinking during the carving process. This climate, harsh for many activities, is ideal for the woodcarver's art, allowing precise work that will remain stable for generations. You can see how the craftsmen work in harmony with their environment, their rhythms adjusted to the natural cycles of light and temperature. During the hottest part of the day, they will rest in the shade, perhaps sharing a simple meal of bread and dates, yogurt and herbs, before returning to their benches when the afternoon light provides the best conditions for detailed work. The master begins to outline his design on the walnut, using a soft charcoal pencil that will not stain the wood. His hand moves with fluid confidence, creating lines that flow like water, geometric patterns that interlock with mathematical precision, floral motifs that seem to grow naturally from the wood itself. This design has been refined over centuries, passed down from master to student, each generation adding subtle improvements. The first cuts are the most important, for they establish the rhythm and character of the entire piece. The master's chisel enters the wood with a soft whisper, removing thin shavings that curl away like silk ribbons. His breathing is deep and regular, synchronized with the movement of his tools, creating a meditative state where craft becomes prayer. You feel your own breathing slowing, matching the peaceful rhythm of the workshop. The gentle sounds, the soft light, the natural fragrances, all combine to create an atmosphere of deep tranquility. Your eyelids begin to feel heavy, and you find yourself drifting into the timeless rhythm of the craftsman's world. The afternoon light grows golden, filtering through the workshop windows like liquid honey. The sounds of carving continue, soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby sung by generations of artisans. The scent of wood shavings mingles with the distant fragrance of rose gardens, creating a perfume that speaks of patience, skill, and devotion to beauty. Your breathing becomes deeper, more relaxed, as you sink into the peaceful atmosphere of this ancient craft. The gentle scraping of chisels, the soft conversations, the whisper of sandpaper on wood, all fade into a gentle symphony that carries you towards sleep. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the evening breeze carries the scent of jasmine through the workshop windows. The sounds of the woodcarvers continue their ancient rhythm, steady and soothing, like a heartbeat that has echoed through centuries of peaceful craft. You drift deeper into tranquility, surrounded by the gentle sounds and fragrances of the master's workshop, where time moves slowly, and every moment is dedicated to creating beauty, carrying you gently into a deep, restful sleep. Chapter 3: Floral Motifs and Calligraphy on Wood. You find yourself awakening slowly in a garden courtyard adjacent to the woodcarver's workshop. The morning air is filled with the natural perfume of roses and jasmine, their fragrances dancing on the gentle breeze that flows between the workshop and this peaceful sanctuary, where inspiration grows like flowers. This garden serves as more than decoration. It is the living library from which the craftsmen draw their designs. Every flower, every leaf, every twisting vine provides patterns that will eventually emerge in wood, transformed by skilled hands into permanent expressions of natural beauty. You breathe deeply, drawing in the sweet scents that have inspired Persian artists for over 1,000 years. The master woodcarver walks slowly among the flower beds, his eyes moving with the careful attention of one who sees not just beauty, but the underlying mathematics that govern nature's designs. He pauses beside a climbing rose, its petals arranged in perfect spirals that follow the golden ratio, the same proportions that will guide his chisel when he carves floral medallions for mosque decoration. His notebook, bound in soft leather, contains hundreds of sketches accumulated over decades of observation. Each drawing captures not just the appearance of a flower or leaf, but its essential character, the way it moves in the wind, the patterns of its growth, the harmony of its proportions. These sketches are treasures, more precious than gold, for they contain the accumulated wisdom of a lifetime devoted to understanding beauty. You walk beside him as he stops at a fountain where lotus flowers float on the still water. Their broad leaves create platforms of green, while the white and pink blossoms rise like small prayers toward the sky. The master traces their outlines in the air with his finger, his hand moving in the same fluid motions he will later use with his carving tools. The Islamic tradition of floral ornament runs deep, connecting the earthly garden with visions of paradise described in the Quran. Every carved flower is more than decoration. It is a reminder of the divine creativity that brings beauty into the world. The woodcarvers of Shiraz understood this sacred dimension of their craft, approaching each piece with the reverence due to spiritual work. Returning to the workshop, you watch as the master begins transferring his garden observations onto wood. The piece before him is a panel destined for a mihrab, the prayer niche that indicates the direction of Mecca in every mosque. This panel will frame the sacred space where the faithful come to pray. So every curve, every line must be perfect. The wood is a fine piece of Persian walnut, its grain flowing like water frozen in time. The master has chosen this particular section because its natural patterns complement the design he plans to carve. Where other craftsmen might fight against the grain, he works with it, allowing the wood's own character to enhance his artistic vision. His first marks are light, tentative, like a poet testing the rhythm of a new verse. The charcoal pencil moves across the wood's surface, creating flowing lines that will guide his chisels. The design emerges slowly, a central medallion surrounded by flowing vines, each leaf precisely positioned according to principles of balance and proportion that have been refined over centuries. The floral vocabulary of Islamic art is rich and varied, drawing from the diverse plant life of the Persian Empire. Palmettes, stylized palm fronds that speak of oases and desert survival, intertwine with acanthus leaves borrowed from classical Greek tradition, while native Persian roses and carnations add their distinctive forms to the eternal garden carved in wood. You notice how the master's breathing slows as he begins the actual carving. His body becomes perfectly still, only his hands moving as the chisel enters the wood. The first cut defines the outer edge of a rose, the blade following the pencil line with perfect precision, removing a thin ribbon of walnut that curls away like a wood shaving made of silk. The sound is barely audible, a soft whisper as steel meets wood, the blade moving with such control that it seems to float through the dense grain. This control comes from decades of practice, beginning with crude attempts as a young apprentice, gradually refining into the masterful technique that makes difficult work appear effortless. Around him, other craftsmen work on their own pieces, some carving the geometric borders that will frame the floral panels, others creating the intricate calligraphy that often accompanies floral decoration in Islamic art. The Arabic script flows like another form of flowering vine, its curves and angles creating their own music when carved into responsive wood. The calligrapher carvers represent a special tradition within the woodworker's craft. They must master not only the technical skills of carving, but also the sacred art of Arabic calligraphy, ensuring that every letter is formed according to strict rules of proportion and beauty. Their work appears on minbars, the stepped pulpits from which Friday sermons are delivered, and on the doors of mosques and madrasas throughout the Islamic world. You watch one of these specialists as he carves a verse from the Quran into a panel of Lebanese cedar. His tools are even finer than those used for floral work. Tiny chisels that can create the hairline strokes required for perfect letter forms. The cedar releases its ancient fragrance as the blade cuts through its resinous grain, a scent that speaks of mountain forests and centuries of slow growth. The verse he carves speaks of gardens beneath which rivers flow, a description of paradise that connects directly with the floral motifs surrounding the text. Word and image work together, creating a unified vision of divine beauty that transforms the simple wooden panel into a window opening onto spiritual realms. The Arabic letters emerge from the wood with mathematical precision, each curve calculated according to principles established by the great calligraphers of Baghdad and Damascus. The alif stands straight and proud, the ba flows like a gentle stream, and the elegant curves of the sin create their own silent music against the cedar's golden background. You can smell the different woods as they respond to the carver's tools, each species contributing its own note to the olfactory symphony of the workshop. The walnut releases a subtle nutty fragrance, the cedar adds its resinous perfume, and the occasional piece of sandalwood, precious and rare, fills the air with its sacred scent when the chisel cuts into its dense, aromatic wood. The master pauses in his work, not from fatigue, but to study the emerging design with fresh eyes. He steps back, tilting his head slightly, seeing how the carved roses interact with the natural grain patterns that flow beneath them. This is the moment when craft becomes art, when technical skill serves a vision that transcends mere decoration. The apprentices gather quietly to observe this critical evaluation, learning not just technique, but judgment, the ability to see their work with the detached eye of a master critic. They watch his face, reading the subtle expressions that indicate satisfaction or concern, gradually developing their own capacity for self-criticism that will serve them throughout their careers. The afternoon light shifts, casting different shadows across the carved surface, revealing details that were hidden moments before. The master adjusts his work accordingly, adding a deeper cut here, refining a curve there, responding to what the changing light reveals about his emerging creation. You notice how the floral patterns seem to breathe as the shadows move across them, the carved roses expanding and contracting with the light. The vine patterns flowing like water across the wooden surface. This interplay between light and shadow was always part of the carver's intention, creating work that changes and grows throughout the day, never static, never fully revealed in any single moment. The sounds of the workshop have become a familiar rhythm, the gentle scraping of chisels, the soft brush of sandpaper, the occasional quiet conversation between master and student. These sounds blend with the distant call to prayer from the city's minarets, reminding everyone that this craft serves not just aesthetic purposes, but spiritual ones as well. As the day progresses, the carved flowers begin to emerge fully from their wooden matrix. The roses show their layered petals, each one carved with botanical accuracy, but stylized according to Islamic artistic principles. The leaves display the serrated edges and flowing curves that make them recognizable as natural forms, while transforming them into elements of pure design. The master's hands move with the certainty of long experience, never hesitating, never second-guessing the path his chisel follows through the wood. This confidence comes from deep knowledge, not just of woodworking technique, but of the artistic tradition he serves, the spiritual purposes his work will fulfill, and the natural forms that inspire every cut. You feel your own breathing synchronizing with the rhythm of his work, the steady, meditative pace that allows precision without tension, skill without strain. The workshop atmosphere is deeply peaceful, filled with the concentration of craftsmen who have found their calling, their hands expressing truths that words cannot capture. The late afternoon sun slants through the windows, turning the wood shavings on the floor into tiny golden curls that catch and hold the light. The air is filled with the mingled scents of different woods and the distant fragrance of the garden, creating an atmosphere that speaks of harmony between human craft and natural beauty. Your eyelids begin to feel heavy as you sink deeper into this peaceful world, where time moves slowly, where every gesture serves beauty, where the ancient partnership between human hands and natural materials creates objects that will outlast their makers, carrying messages of faith and beauty into future centuries. The gentle sounds of carving continue around you, soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby carved from wood and time. The master's chisel whispers through the walnut grain, creating roses that will bloom forever in their wooden garden, while the scent of cedar and sandalwood drifts through the peaceful air. Your breathing deepens, matching the ancient rhythm of this sacred craft. As the evening light grows soft and golden, painting the workshop walls with warm shadows that dance gently across the carved flowers, you drift deeper into tranquility, surrounded by the timeless beauty of floral motifs emerging from responsive wood, carrying you gently into a deep, restful sleep. Chapter 4. The Daily Life of a Shirazi Woodcarver. You awaken gently in the pre-dawn hours, in the simple but comfortable home of Master Ahmad, a master woodcarver whose family has practiced this ancient craft for 7 generations. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the fragrance of night-blooming jasmine from the small courtyard garden that provides both beauty and inspiration for his daily work. The house is built in the traditional Persian style, rooms arranged around a central courtyard where a small fountain bubbles quietly in the darkness. The sound of water is constant, but never intrusive, like a gentle heartbeat that marks the rhythm of domestic life. You can hear the soft splash as Ahmad performs his morning ablutions at the fountain, preparing for the first prayer of the day. His movements are slow and deliberate, never rushed, for he learned long ago that haste brings neither profit nor peace. The ritual washing is performed with the same careful attention he brings to his carving, each gesture precise and meaningful, connecting the physical act with spiritual preparation for the day ahead. The prayer carpet is spread on the flat roof of the house, where Ahmad can face toward Mecca while watching the first light of dawn creep across the mountains that surround Shiraz. His prayers are whispered softly, the Arabic words flowing like music in the still air. You feel the peace that emanates from this quiet devotion. Below in the courtyard, his wife Zara tends the small garden that provides both food and artistic inspiration for the household. She moves quietly among the herbs and flowers, watering the mint and parsley, checking the progress of roses that will eventually appear, transformed and stylized in her husband's wooden carvings. Her hands are gentle with the plants, coaxing growth rather than forcing it. The garden is laid out according to the traditional Persian pattern, 4 sections divided by narrow channels that carry water from the central fountain. Each section contains different plants, culinary herbs in one, medicinal plants in another, flowers for beauty in the third, and fruit trees in the fourth. This organization reflects the Islamic love of order and symmetry, the same principles that guide Ahmad's artistic work. You can smell the morning fragrances as the garden awakens. Mint, releasing its sharp scent when Zara's fingers brush against it. Roses beginning to open their petals to catch the first rays of sun. Orange trees contributing their sweet perfume to the cool air. These scents will linger in Ahmad's memory as he works, influencing the curves and patterns his chisel creates in wood. Inside the house, the rooms are simple but beautiful, furnished with pieces that Ahmad has crafted over the years. A low table of carved walnut sits in the main room, its surface decorated with geometric patterns that seem to flow like water across the golden wood. Cushions covered in silk from the Shiraz looms provide comfortable seating, their colors chosen to complement the warm tones of the wooden furniture. The walls are decorated with carved wooden panels, some created by Ahmad, others inherited from his father and grandfather. Each piece tells a story, not just of artistic skill, but of family history, religious devotion, and the continuous tradition that connects past and future through the work of skilled hands. You run your fingers across one panel, feeling the smooth curves and precise edges that speak of countless hours of patient work. As the sun rises higher, the household routine unfolds with quiet efficiency. Zara prepares the morning meal, simple but nourishing food that will sustain Ahmad through the long day ahead. Flat bread baked in the communal oven, fresh cheese made from goat's milk, honey collected from beehives maintained on the city's outskirts, and tea brewed from herbs grown in their own garden. The meal is eaten in companionable silence, both husband and wife appreciating the peaceful start to another day. Ahmad's hands, already showing the calluses and small scars that mark a lifetime of woodworking, handle the delicate tea glass with the same precision he brings to his finest carving tools. Every gesture reflects the mindfulness that his craft has taught him. You notice how the morning light enters the house, through carefully placed windows, illuminating the carved decorations without creating harsh shadows. This is intentional. The house designed by craftsmen who understood how light affects the perception of carved work. The same principles that guide the design of workshops also influence domestic architecture. After the meal, Ahmad makes his way through the narrow streets toward his workshop in the bazaar. The walk is unhurried, allowing him time to observe the city awakening, to notice changes in the gardens and buildings, to gather visual impressions that will later influence his work. He greets neighbors with quiet courtesy, part of the social fabric that binds the community together. The streets are beginning to fill with other craftsmen making their way to work. Weavers and metalworkers, potters and calligraphers, each contributing their skills to the rich artistic life of Timurid Shiraz. You walk among them, feeling the sense of shared purpose, the understanding that their individual efforts contribute to something larger than themselves. At the workshop, Ahmad begins his day by checking the tools, sharpening any that need attention, organizing the materials he will need for the day's work. This ritual preparation is both practical and meditative, a way of connecting with his craft, of entering the proper state of mind for creative work. His movements are smooth and economical, the result of decades of practice. The morning's work begins with examination of the piece he left the previous evening. A section of minbar decoration commissioned for a mosque in the nearby city of Isfahan. The wood is a beautiful piece of aged cherry, its grain flowing like flame through the reddish heartwood. Ahmad studies it carefully, reacquainting himself with its character after the night's rest. His approach to the wood is like a musician tuning an instrument, feeling for the proper relationship between his tools and the material they will shape. The first cuts are exploratory, testing the grain direction, checking how cleanly the wood splits along its natural lines. This information guides his strategy for the more complex carving that will follow. The design he will carve combines geometric and floral elements, a complex interlacing pattern that requires mathematical precision combined with artistic sensitivity. Each element must be perfectly proportioned, each intersection precisely calculated, yet the overall effect must appear natural and flowing, as if the pattern grew organically from the wood itself. You watch as Ahmad begins marking the basic framework, using a compass and straightedge to establish the geometric foundation of the design. These construction lines are nearly invisible, drawn with a sharp silver point that leaves only the faintest trace on the wood surface. Yet they provide the skeleton around which the entire carved composition will develop. The first actual cuts define the main elements of the pattern. Bold strokes that establish the rhythm and scale of the entire piece. Ahmad's chisel moves with confident precision, removing wood in controlled shavings that curl away from the blade like silk ribbons. The sound is barely audible, a soft whisper that speaks of sharp tools and skilled hands. As the morning progresses, other craftsmen arrive and begin their own work, creating the gentle symphony of sounds that characterizes the woodcarver section of the bazaar. Chisels scrape softly through different types of wood, each species contributing its own note to the musical conversation. Walnut speaking in deep tones, cherry adding its higher voice, cedar contributing the resonant whisper of mountain forests. The work requires complete concentration, the kind of focused attention that excludes all distractions, that narrows the world to the small area where tool meets wood. Yet it is not tense concentration, but rather the relaxed alertness of a master craftsman, aware and responsive, ready to adjust technique as the wood's character reveals itself. During the midday break, when the desert sun makes detailed work difficult, Ahmad joins his colleagues for the simple meal they share each day. The food is basic: bread and cheese, dried fruits and nuts, water cooled in porous clay jars that sweat gently in the heat, their moisture evaporating to keep the contents refreshingly cool. The conversation during these breaks is quiet and thoughtful. Craftsmen sharing technical knowledge, discussing new commissions, or simply enjoying the companionship of others who understand their work. Ahmad learns of a new shipment of ebony from India, rare and precious wood that will allow him to create inlay work of extraordinary beauty. Another colleague mentions a commission for carved doors, requiring collaboration between several workshops. You notice how these men support each other, sharing tools when needed, offering advice on difficult techniques, celebrating each other's successes without envy. This community of craftsmen functions like an extended family, bound together by shared knowledge, common challenges, and mutual respect for skills that take decades to master. After the meal, during the hottest part of the day, Ahmad retreats to the shade of his workshop's courtyard. Here, surrounded by samples of his work and sketches of future projects, he plans the afternoon's carving, visualizing each cut before his tools touch the wood. This mental preparation is as important as the physical work, for complex carving requires both technical skill and clear artistic vision. The courtyard is cooled by a small fountain, its water bubbling softly over carved stone that Ahmad's grandfather created decades ago. The sound is hypnotic, rhythmic, like a natural metronome that helps regulate the craftsman's breathing and heartbeat. You sit beside the fountain, feeling the cool mist on your face, watching the play of light and shadow on the water's surface. Around the courtyard, finished pieces wait for collection by their owners, or for transport to distant cities where they will adorn mosques and palaces. Each piece represents weeks or months of patient work, yet Ahmad regards them with the detached satisfaction of one who knows that his real reward lies in the process of creation, not in the finished product. A wooden screen, destined for a wealthy merchant's home, displays the intricate geometric patterns known as girih, mathematical designs that can be extended infinitely without repetition. The precision required for such work is extraordinary. Each angle cut to within a fraction of a degree, each element fitting perfectly with its neighbors to create seamless patterns that speak of divine order. Beside it stands a section of minbar decoration, its flowing calligraphy proclaiming verses from the Quran in letters that seem to dance across the walnut's golden surface. The Arabic script flows like flowering vines, each letter perfectly formed according to the classical proportions established by the great calligraphers of Baghdad and Cordoba. This is Ahmad's specialty, the marriage of wood carving with the sacred art of beautiful writing. As the afternoon heat begins to subside, Ahmad returns to his workbench, where the cherry wood awaits his attention. The morning's work has established the basic framework of the design. Now comes the more delicate task of carving the floral elements that will bring the geometric pattern to life. His chisels are arranged in careful order, each one honed to razor sharpness, ready for the precise work ahead. The afternoon light, filtered through the workshop's north-facing windows, provides ideal conditions for detailed carving. Ahmad adjusts his position slightly, ensuring that shadows fall correctly across the work surface, revealing the subtle variations in depth that give carved decoration its living quality. This attention to lighting is crucial, for shadows and highlights create the illusion that flat patterns possess actual three-dimensional depth. His first afternoon cuts begin to define individual rose blossoms within the geometric framework, each flower emerging slowly from the cherry's reddish wood, like a sunrise captured in solid form. The carving technique requires him to work from the center outward, establishing the deepest cuts first, then gradually working toward the surface in carefully planned stages. You can smell the cherry wood as Ahmad's chisels release its distinctive fragrance, sweet and slightly smoky, like the scent of orchards in autumn when fruit hangs heavy on the branches. This natural perfume mingles with the other wood scents in the workshop, creating an atmosphere that connects the craftsman's work with the living forests where his raw materials originated. The sound of carving changes as Ahmad works with different areas of the grain, the chisel whispering through the softer spring growth, speaking more firmly when it encounters the denser summer wood. These variations in density create natural patterns within each carved element, subtle color changes that add richness and complexity to the finished work. Around him, other craftsmen pursue their own projects, their tools contributing to the gentle symphony that characterizes the workshop throughout the working day. A young apprentice practices basic cuts on a piece of pine, his uncertain movements gradually gaining confidence as muscle memory begins to develop. An experienced journeyman carves border decorations for a Quran stand, his hands moving with the fluid certainty that comes from years of practice. The apprentice occasionally pauses in his work to observe Ahmad's technique, learning not just from formal instruction, but from careful observation of master-level skill. He watches how Ahmad's body remains relaxed even during demanding passages, how the breathing remains steady and deep, how each tool movement flows naturally into the next without hesitation or correction. This transmission of knowledge from master to student has continued unbroken for centuries, each generation adding its own refinements to techniques perfected by countless previous craftsmen. Ahmad remembers his own apprenticeship, the humility required to accept criticism, the patience needed to master basic skills before attempting complex work, the gradual awakening of artistic sensitivity that transforms mere technical ability into genuine craftsmanship. As the day progresses, the carved roses begin to show their individual character, some opening fully to display their layered petals, others captured in bud form, their promise of beauty still contained within protective sepals. Each flower is botanically accurate, yet artistically idealized, recognizable as roses, yet transformed into elements of pure design that serve the larger geometric composition. The afternoon call to prayer interrupts the work briefly as Ahmad and his colleagues pause for their devotions, facing toward Mecca, their voices joining in the ancient words that connect them with Muslims throughout the world. The prayer is recited softly, not disturbing the concentration of those who choose to continue working, yet providing a moment of spiritual refreshment for those who participate. After prayer, Ahmad returns to his work with renewed focus, the brief break having cleared his mind and recharged his creative energy. His chisels move with even greater precision, following the wood's grain with intuitive understanding, creating forms that seem to grow naturally from the cherry's living structure, rather than being imposed upon it from outside. You notice how the late afternoon light reveals new details in the emerging carving, shadows shifting to expose previously hidden depths, highlights moving across curved surfaces to create the illusion of movement within the static wood. This dynamic quality is part of what makes Islamic carved decoration so compelling, its ability to change and evolve as viewing conditions shift throughout the day. The workshop gradually grows quieter as the sun moves lower in the sky. Some craftsmen completing their work for the day, others reaching natural stopping points in their projects. Ahmad continues carving until the light becomes too dim for detailed work, then carefully cleans his tools and covers the unfinished piece with a soft cloth to protect it from dust and insects. The walk home through the evening streets provides time for reflection on the day's accomplishments. Problems solved, techniques refined, new insights gained into the character of different woods or the requirements of specific designs. Ahmad's mind processes these experiences, storing them in the vast mental library that every master craftsman accumulates over decades of practice. At home, the evening meal is a time for sharing the day's experiences with Zara, discussing not just technical matters, but the human connections that make work meaningful. The satisfaction of creating beauty, the pleasure of contributing to the community's spiritual and aesthetic life through skilled craftsmanship. The food reflects the season and the family's modest prosperity. Rice pilaf, fragrant with saffron and dried fruits. Lamb stewed with herbs from the garden. Flatbreads still warmed from the communal oven, and yogurt mixed with mint and cucumber to cool the palate. The flavors are subtle and complex, like the carved patterns that flow from Ahmad's chisels, simple ingredients transformed into something greater through skill and attention. After the meal, as the evening light fades into darkness, Ahmad sits in his courtyard beside the fountain, sketching new design ideas by the light of an oil lamp. These drawings will eventually find expression in wood, but for now, they exist only as possibilities, flowing lines that capture the essence of flowers observed in the garden. Geometric patterns inspired by the mathematical harmonies that underlie all creation. Zara sits nearby, working on embroidery that echoes the floral motifs her husband carves in wood, her needle following paths similar to those his chisel traces through receptive grain. Their work is different in medium, but united in purpose, both seeking to bring beauty into the world through patient, skilled craftsmanship. The sounds of evening settle over the household, the fountain's gentle bubbling, the soft scratch of pencil on paper, the whisper of silk thread through fabric, the distant call of the night watch making his rounds through the sleeping city. These sounds blend into a peaceful symphony that speaks of home, family, and work well done. You feel your own breathing slowing, matching the tranquil rhythm of this domestic scene. As your eyelids begin to grow heavy with the contentment that comes from witnessing lives lived in harmony with ancient traditions, meaningful work, and the quiet satisfactions of craftsmanship practiced with love and devotion. The oil lamp flickers gently, casting dancing shadows across Ahmad's sketches and Zara's embroidery, while the fountain continues its eternal song and the jasmine releases its perfume into the cool night air. You drift deeper into the peaceful atmosphere of this craftsman's home, where tradition and innovation, work and rest, solitude and companionship blend into a way of life that has nourished the human spirit for countless generations, carrying you gently into a deep, restful sleep. Chapter 5: Lasting Works in Mosques and Palaces. You find yourself standing in the hushed interior of the Shah Mosque in Isfahan, one of the architectural masterpieces of the Safavid period, where the wood-carving traditions perfected in Timurid Shiraz reach their ultimate expression. The vast space around you breathes with centuries of prayer and contemplation. Its acoustics, designed to carry the human voice in perfect harmony throughout the sacred interior. The morning light filters through the mosque's clerestory windows, illuminating wooden elements that have survived for hundreds of years, their carved surfaces still crisp and clear despite the passage of time. These pieces represent the culmination of skills passed down through countless generations of craftsmen, each one contributing to a tradition that connects earth to heaven through the medium of transformed wood. Above you, the mihrab's wooden frame rises like a prayer made solid, its intricate geometric borders surrounding flowing calligraphy that proclaims the unity and majesty of Allah. The wood is walnut, aged to a deep golden brown that glows with inner warmth when touched by the morning sun. Every curve and angle has been calculated according to mathematical principles that reflect the divine order underlying all creation. You approach the mihrab slowly, reverently, feeling the weight of centuries pressing gently upon your consciousness. This is where countless faithful have stood to lead their communities in prayer, where the words of the Quran have been recited in voices that rise and fall like gentle waves, where the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds becomes permeable through the power of the carved decoration surrounding the mihrab tells a story in the vocabulary of Islamic art, geometric patterns that extend infinitely, suggesting the limitless nature of divine creation. Floral motifs that speak of paradise gardens where the righteous will find eternal peace, and calligraphy that transforms the Arabic script into visual music, celebrating the beauty of revealed truth. Each carved rose in the mihrab's decoration represents hours of patient work by craftsmen like Ahmad, men who understood that their skills served purposes greater than mere decoration. The flowers bloom eternally in their wooden garden, their petals carved with such precision that they seem to tremble on the edge of releasing their perfume into the sacred air of the prayer hall. The geometric borders that frame the floral panels demonstrate the Islamic love of mathematical harmony. Patterns based on the regular division of circles, the infinite extension of angular relationships, the visual representation of numerical ratios that govern everything from the movement of planets to the proportions of the human body. These are not mere decorations, but theological statements carved in wood. Moving deeper into the mosque, you discover the minbar, the stepped pulpit from which Friday sermons are delivered to the assembled congregation. This magnificent structure rises like a wooden mountain, its sides covered with carved panels that represent the finest achievements of the woodcarver's art. Each panel tells part of a larger story, creating a visual sermon that accompanies the spoken words of the preacher. The minbar's construction required the collaboration of several master craftsmen, working together over many months to create a unified masterpiece. The framework was built by specialists in structural carpentry, men who understood the stresses and forces that the completed pulpit would need to withstand. Upon this foundation, the decorative carvers applied their skills, transforming functional necessity into transcendent beauty. You climb the minbar's steps slowly, your hand trailing along the carved balustrade that guides worshippers safely upward. The wood is smooth and warm under your palm, polished by centuries of similar contact, each touch adding to the patina that gives old wood its distinctive character. The carvings show no signs of wear despite their age, testament to the skill of craftsmen who understood how to work with the grain rather than against it. From the minbar's peak, you can see the entire prayer hall spread below, rows of columns supporting arches that frame views of the courtyard beyond, where fountains bubble softly and orange trees provide shade for those seeking quiet contemplation. The wooden elements throughout this space create a sense of warmth and intimacy that stone and tile alone could never achieve. The minbar's crown, a wooden dome covered with carved stars and geometric patterns, represents the celestial sphere under which all earthly worship takes place. The 8-pointed stars that dominate the design speak of regeneration and renewal, while the interlacing patterns suggest the interconnectedness of all creation under divine providence. This is theology expressed through craft, faith made visible through skilled hands working with natural materials. Leaving the mosque, you walk through Isfahan's covered bazaar, where merchant stalls display goods from throughout the known world. Here, in specialized workshops tucked between the commercial spaces, descendants of the Shirazi woodcarvers continue practicing their ancient craft, adapting traditional techniques to contemporary needs while preserving the essential spirit of their art. In one workshop, a master craftsman repairs damage to a minbar panel carved 2 centuries earlier. His modern tools, working carefully to match techniques and patterns established by long-dead predecessors. The repair work requires not just technical skill, but deep understanding of historical methods, the ability to think and work like craftsmen from previous generations, ensuring that restored elements blend invisibly with original work. You watch as he studies the damaged section through a magnifying lens, identifying the specific tools that created each cut, analyzing the sequence of operations that built up the complex pattern, planning his restoration work to follow exactly the same processes used by the original carver. This kind of historical reconstruction requires years of study, supplementing practical experience with scholarly research into the methods of earlier periods. The restoration workshop contains tools that span several centuries, some inherited from master craftsmen of earlier generations, others created according to historical specifications to replicate techniques that might otherwise be lost. Each tool represents accumulated knowledge, embodying in its shape and sharpening the wisdom of countless craftsmen who understood how to coax beauty from resistant wood. Moving on through the bazaar, you encounter a workshop specializing in the creation of Quran stands, wooden lecterns that hold the sacred book during public recitation. These pieces require extraordinary precision, for they must support the precious manuscript while allowing readers easy access to its pages. Their decoration serving the text rather than competing with it for attention. The current commission is a stand destined for a madrasa in distant Samarkand. Its design, incorporating both Persian and Central Asian motifs in recognition of the cultural exchange that has always characterized Islamic civilization. The geometric patterns flow seamlessly between different artistic traditions, creating a visual dialogue that transcends political boundaries and ethnic differences. You observe as the craftsman tests the stand's proportions, ensuring that a reader of average height can comfortably access the Quran's pages without strain, that the viewing angle allows clear sight of the Arabic text, that the wooden surface will not reflect light in ways that might impair vision during long recitation sessions. This attention to functional requirements demonstrates the Islamic principle that beauty and utility should work together rather than in opposition. The decoration of the Quran stand employs a vocabulary of symbols specific to the Islamic tradition. Palm fronds that recall the Prophet's journey to Medina, cypress trees that point toward heaven like natural minarets, and flowing vines that suggest the interconnectedness of all believers within the global community of Islam. These motifs have been refined over centuries, their meanings understood by craftsmen and viewers alike. As afternoon approaches, you visit a private palace where Timurid rulers once held court. Its reception halls still decorated with wooden panels that demonstrate the secular application of Islamic decorative arts. Here, the same techniques used in religious contexts create an atmosphere of cultured refinement, transforming functional architecture into settings worthy of royal presence. The palace's wooden screens, or mushrabia, are remnants of the ancient style of luxury. Filter light and air while maintaining privacy for the inhabitants. Their geometric openings creating constantly changing patterns of illumination that enliven the interior spaces throughout the day. The mathematical precision required to create these screens rivals that of the most complex religious carvings, each opening calculated to contribute to both functional and aesthetic success. In the palace's reception hall, a wooden ceiling rises overhead like a canopy of carved stars. Each coffered panel containing patterns that relate to its neighbors, while maintaining its individual character. The overall effect suggests the night sky, with its infinite expanse punctuated by points of light, creating an environment that elevates both host and guests above the mundane concerns of earthly existence. The ceiling's construction represents one of the most challenging applications of the woodcarver's art, requiring not just decorative skill, but structural engineering knowledge, understanding of how wooden elements can be joined to create large spans without visible support, appreciation of how different woods expand and contract with changes in humidity and temperature. You lie on soft carpets spread across the marble floor, looking upward at this wooden heaven, feeling your breathing slow as your eyes trace the interlocking patterns that seem to pulse gently in the changing light. The craftsmen who created this ceiling understood the psychological effects of their work, designing patterns that calm the mind while inspiring awe at the complexity and beauty of divine creation. The afternoon light streaming through the mushrabia screens creates a constantly shifting display of geometric shadows on the palace walls, patterns that change subtly as the sun moves across the sky, transforming the space into a living demonstration of Islamic decorative principles. The shadows themselves become part of the decoration, temporary patterns that complement the permanent carvings. As evening approaches, you find yourself in the palace garden, where wooden pavilions provide shaded retreats for contemplation and conversation. These structures represent the synthesis of architecture and landscape design that characterizes Persian garden tradition. Their carved decorations echoing the natural patterns of flowers and flowing water that surround them. The pavilion's wooden columns are carved to suggest palm trunks, their capitals flowering into carved palmettes that blur the boundary between architectural element and natural form. This integration of built and natural environments reflects the Islamic understanding that human creativity should work in harmony with divine creation rather than competing against it. You sit in one of these pavilions as the sun sets behind the mountains, watching the play of light and shadow across carved surfaces that have witnessed centuries of similar sunsets. Their beauty undiminished by the passage of time, their message of harmony between human skill and natural beauty still speaking clearly to contemporary viewers. the evening breeze carries the scent of roses and jasmine through the pavilion's carved screens, the same flowers that inspired the decorative motifs surrounding you, connecting you directly with the natural sources that feed Islamic artistic tradition. This continuity between art and nature, between human craft and divine creation, lies at the heart of the woodcarver's ancient practice. As darkness falls, the wooden elements of mosque and palace fade into shadow, but their influence continues, having shaped the consciousness of countless viewers over the centuries, inspiring new generations of craftsmen to carry forward traditions that connect earthly skill with heavenly inspiration, preserving knowledge that might otherwise vanish into the silence of forgotten cultures. The stars emerge overhead, their patterns echoing the geometric designs carved into wood by craftsmen who understood that their work participated in the same cosmic order that governs the movement of celestial bodies, the growth of flowers, the flow of water, and the yearning of human hearts toward beauty, truth, and transcendence. Your breathing becomes deep and regular, synchronized with the eternal rhythms that govern both natural processes and human creativity. As your eyelids grow heavy with the weight of centuries contemplated, traditions honored, and beauty preserved through the patient work of countless skilled hands, you drift into the peaceful darkness where carved flowers bloom eternally, where geometric patterns extend infinitely, where the work of human hands achieves permanence through service to truths that transcend individual mortality, carrying the wisdom and beauty of Timurid craftsmanship into the timeless realm of dreams, where all true art finds its ultimate home in deep, restful sleep.